Sacred priests are those priests who are highly ritualized. Okay, they perform. They are orthodox priests. They perform their customs and rituals very rigidly. Okay, those are Sanskritic priests. Second is feudalistic. Why feudalistic? Because their position is hereditary. Since they are hereditary, they generate huge income from performing all the sacrifices. Okay, and they also charge high fee. Okay, and hence they do only important sacrifices, because people from the lower strata, they cannot afford those high fee charged by them. So what they only perform high important sacrifices. Okay, then third is the local priest. These priests perform sacrifices or rituals of the folk people only. Okay, so these two belong to great tradition, local priests belong to little tradition. So here we also saw the continuation of two traditions, okay, at the same place, that is sacred geography. So these sacred specialists, we can say, they act as the protector of a culture and a religion, and they are also responsible for transmission of important ideas and elements to local population. For example, some elements of great tradition are being transferred to the, we can say, diffused to the rural or tribal population. Okay, and a fewer elements are also transmitted to the folk, from folk people to the people from great tradition. Okay, that also happens. So all this in this transfer of elements, or this interaction between the two traditions, happen while officiating rituals. Okay, that there are certain case studies that we will see right here. First, we saw the LP Vidyarthi studied the sacred complex in Gaya. There he studied both the structure and the function, how the sacred complex is structured, that we saw above. Okay, the gradation we saw, how there is center, cluster, segment, zone, kshetra, right? We also saw there is sacred geography, there is sacred secular geography. We also saw how it's functioning. We saw how sacred specialists perform functions, how the sacred performances are being performed, how the sacred geography is important to the sacred complex, right? We saw it above. Then there is this another Indian anthropologist, that is Indian social anthropologist, I would say, the Saraswati. He also made he made some prominent contributions to this field through his three studies. One was the Holy Circuit of Nimsar. Okay, this he studied in 1965. 1965. Okay. Second was the temple organization in Goa. It was in 1962. Yeah, 1962. Temple organization in Goa. Third is the Kashi. Okay, Kashi, the myth and reality of classical cultural traditions in 1975. Okay, yeah. So these are the three studies of Saraswati. So in Kashi, Saraswati said that sacred complexes are formed as a man's desire to communicate with spiritual world to attain moksha. Okay, so this is actually the observation made by Saraswati. Why are sacred complexes formed? Because people have this desire and urge to attain moksha and to lead a spiritual life. That is why they go to the sacred, that see why we go to perform these rituals to in sacred places, है ना? We go to Haridwar, we go to those Char Dham temples, we go to Muslims go to Medina, है ना? So we do all this because of spirituality, and because to so as to attain moksha. Okay, so this was the reason given by Saraswati. Second, Saraswati said that Kashi appears Brahmanic. Okay, if you see Kashi, it appears Brahmanic, but it's more complex than just being Brahmanic. Why? Because the Brahmanic temple, that is Visheshwara, and the non-Brahmanic temple, that is Agiyabir, they both coexist. Okay, they both coexist. So this is not like a very simple, if you see. Second, the Kamakandi, the learned Brahmins. and Dome, who are the illiterate untouchables. They conduct sacred performances together. Okay, so this is also not very usual. You cannot see this outside in some, some usual place that higher caste Brahmins and untouchables are performing this performances together in a very peaceful manner. Okay, that is why I said this is the happy synthesis, right? And third observation was that Nastic Brahmins, they were touching the feet of Avadut. Can you imagine? Avadut, who eat carcasses. So this is also happening in the sacred complex. Okay, so what these three observations demonstrate? They demonstrate a symbol of inclusiveness. Why inclusiveness? Because it integrates diverse cultural traditions within a common consciousness or within a common bond of civilization. That is why we say that there is this inclusivity in the sacred complex. The second is that no culture must be too egoistic, because if cultures are egoistic within the sacred complex, all these things cannot happen happily. Okay, so no culture is showing their egoistic complex, superiority complex within the sacred complex. Okay, so these two are the we can say inferences from the above three observations. Okay, then there is also the sacred complex of Ratanpur and Janakpur. Both their studies tested the hypothesis made by the singer Vidyarthi and Redfield. What was their hypothesis? That there is this continuous interaction and there is this continuous exchange of elements between great tradition and little tradition, and that in turn is responsible for the continuation of Indian civilization. Okay, this was upheld in these sacred complexes. Then there is a Mohapatra study of Lingaraj temple. Its structure and changes were studied. Then we have Morab and Goswami's Chamundeshwar temple in Mysore was studied by them. Okay, then Chakravarti studied Tarakeshwar temple. Then Makhanja studied sacred complex of Ratanpur. I don't need to remember all these, just three are enough. Okay, for exam point of view, we cannot write all these case studies, just two or three. Okay, and then next is the significance. Why do we study sacred complex, or what is the significance of sacred complex? If we see, first point is that this acts as a meeting point of people's belief system and practices. For example, I belong to a particular belief system and you belong to the other belief system. So when we both go to the sacred complex and perform some rituals and sacrifices, so what happens? Our belief systems are exposed to each other. Okay, you will see how what my belief system is, I'll see yours, so that will be the meeting place of these practices and beliefs. Then there is also some diffusion of cultural traits. Okay, as we saw how traits are transmitted from great to little and little to great tradition, right? So we can using sacred complex, we can study how diffusion occurred at prehistoric times, right? So this is also one of the significance. Third is that it acts as a binding force. Why? Because it creates a common cultural consciousness. When we all go there, we feel the same, and this part of the same culture. Okay, so that consciousness gets developed within. Then fourth is that it also acts as the integration of civilization, है ना? Because civilization cannot exist if these interchanges do not take place. Then it is also a means to achieve spirituality and moksha that we already discussed. Then there are some creative arts and literature which is also preserved at sacred complex, right? Because the old temple architectures are being preserved. uh, okay, and their arts is appreciated everywhere. Okay, this also exists because sacred complex is going on, its significance is not diminishing. We are religiosity is rather increasing. Okay, so this is possible because of sacred complexes. But there is some criticism also. Why? Because in definition we saw it was concerned with the Hindu tradition only. Okay, not something related to, suppose no study was done in this Makkah or Medina, which belongs to the Muslim faith, or the Jerusalem, that is the center of different faiths. Okay, we didn't see anything like that. in the studies. Okay, then it also leads to fundamentalism, because it might appear that there is this there is caste list things or rituals going on, but that is not the case. Caste discrimination prevails in one form or the other form. There is over consciousness of one religion over the other. Okay, not only this, some sacred specialists, they popularize some texts and demean others. Okay, usually they will popularize their own Brahmanic or Sanskritic text, and they will demean the folk text. Okay, the text belonging to the simple societies. Fine. And then we have sacred performances. What happens, some rituals are being, shown in a very superior manner, as if they are the only superior rituals and others are not that important. Okay, so these things happen within the sacred complex. Okay. And there were recent studies done. Okay, at some places, I can say the re-study was done by Malini Srivastav. Okay, Malini Srivastav studied the sacred complex of Mundas, which was located in the 4 villages of Ranchi district. Okay, Malini Srivastav observed some things. That is, first observation is that those villages were inhabited by the mixed population of Sarna Mundas and Christian Mundas. Sarna Mundas belong to the little tradition because they are the folk people, and Christian Mundas, they are the converted Mundas. Okay, they belong to the great tradition. So what Malini Srivastav observed was, first, there was a revival of all these things. Revival of what? Sacred centers. There were some centers who were the sacred patches. Every geography has some sacred patch or sacred geography, that I told you. There is sacred geography, there is secular geography. Okay, secular geography is not important from religion point of view. There the other secular activities take place there, like there are vegetable vendors sitting there, or there are markets established, things like that. But sacred geography is only for religious rituals are performed there, or sacrifices or puja, yagna, etc. Okay, so these centers were identified and they were revived by Munda people. Second, there were sacred burial grounds also, that is called as Sasandiri. There are sacred tamarind trees, that is called as Akru by these Munda people. Then we have Sarhul and Fagun. These are the two sacred performances performed by them. Then Devta and Pahan are the specialists. Okay, so all these are being revived despite the urbanization. Recently, even Munda people, they are also demanding that their religious texts should be preserved, and they don't want to get urbanized or modernized by, like, Christian Mundas have been already this undergone, but they want a revival of their ancient system. Okay, then at Kashi there was certain changes. That is, first is that the sacred geography was shrinking there, and the secular geography was expanding. Okay, so this is sort of reverse of Munda, this people. Okay, then second, the Gaya Shraddha, that we said, the offerings to these ancestral spirits, the offerings to them, they have become more traditional and less devotional. Okay, there is decrease in the devotion, this side. Okay, then Gayawal Brahmins, earlier they were highly Sanskritic. We know how what Sanskritic priest is. Earlier they were more Sanskritic. Their lifestyle was totally ceremonial. Okay, now there are some changes that are being seen. They are not that Sanskritic anymore. Okay, and they had this Jajmani relation with the outside world. There were some patrons who they were exchanging and their services with. Okay, Jajmani system is again another topic that we will see. Okay, so there was this relationship between patrons and these Gayawal Brahmins or the sacred specialists. So that relationship is also shrinking because of urbanization. So in Kashi there is a change in one direction, and in the study made by the Malini Srivastav in case of Mundas, that the change is in other direction. Okay, so we can understand that it can go in either way. It depends on how the local people feel about their culture. Okay, so this was it from my side on sacred complex. I hope you liked the session. Thank you very much.